Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, what is a non-law enforcement public safety strategy? You're going to hear from New York City's new deputy mayor for community safety. Also ahead, how prom dresses and scholarships are helping empower young women of color. We'll introduce you to the founder of the Princess Chambers. Later, longtime TV host Judge Hatchett on her new children's book, Goal Girls, and how her commitment to inspiring young lives is present. Plus, a new generation of jazz artists, six-time Grammy Award-winning vocalist Samara Joy and Grammy-nominated saxophonist Chris Mitchell. That's all ahead on Here and Now. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. We think a perfect time to take a closer look at New York City's first ever Mayor's Office of Community Safety. And the intent here is to focus on non-law enforcement public safety strategies. Joining us now is the new Deputy Mayor for Community Safety, Renita Francois. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So talk to us about, because this is a whole new office the mayor wants to open up. Talk to us about why this was important for him.
Yeah, I think this is important to the mayor because he understands that, you know, all New Yorkers have varying definitions of what makes them feel safe. And oftentimes it's rooted in the idea that, you know, we need to feel secure in our person. We need to feel that we have a safety net and a community that we can turn to when something goes wrong, when we are in crisis, and that we also don't want to get to the point of crisis, that we really want to have strong and vibrant communities and neighborhoods across New York City, no matter race, class, income level, where you come from. And I think that just that level of care from government coming from the mayor was really important to him.
Yeah, I think, I mean, honestly, in all that you said, it sounds like you have a gut feeling that most people want to be seen.
That's right.
Yeah, they want to be seen, whatever the process is. And one of the reasons I mentioned this being Mental Health Awareness Month is because I think when one of the things that comes up and is really demonstrative for a lot of New Yorkers is when there is a situation that someone is in crisis, then it's not necessarily criminal crisis, but they are in crisis, perhaps a mental health crisis. And the thought that perhaps police officers shouldn't be responding. And it's not about pointing fingers of blame at law enforcement. Mm-hmm. They're just doing the job they've been assigned to do. It seems to me this is saying, you know what? There needs to be varying levels when it comes to public safety, so that perhaps there are other people that are more, what's the word? Are a better choice to answer that call and handle those calls. And is that some of what this office is designed to do, to figure out how the resources are deployed in a more beneficial and effective way?
Yeah, I think across the country, people are sort of taking a step back and saying, at the most vulnerable times in our lives, in our families' lives, do we want to, what type of support do we need when we are in these moments of vulnerability and crisis? And so that's just not just a New York City trend, that's where the nation is heading, and rightfully so. And for us, it's really I think a multi-part issue. Mm-hmm. Our police system, our responders in uniform, that system is overwhelmed. And we've heard our police telling us that, we've heard that from many different voices and entities across the city. And so for us, we need to alleviate the pressure on them to respond to these issues that they're not best suited to respond to, so that they can respond to the things that they are. But on the other side of that, there are people in our communities who know their neighbors, who know, you know, organizations, community-based providers who are intimately familiar with the communities and the people in them who may be in these positions of emotional distress, and who can say, or who can comfort a family and apply the evidence-based you know, reaction that family needs. They're familiar with, you know, crisis de-escalation. They're familiar with how you handle a person who might be in emotional or mental distress. And so how do we build that infrastructure so that the city is prepared to respond in this compassionate way, while also supporting law enforcement to do the jobs that they were hired to do?
Yeah, we've interviewed quite a few of those. Some of them call themselves violence interrupters or whatever and they've gotten results in their communities. So as part of the strategy, especially early on, to you're not, essentially what you said to me right then was that you're not necessarily building everything from scratch. You already recognize people are doing this work, and what you want to do is to figure out how to maybe have that more organized and take advantage of what the work that they're already doing.
Yes, this city has a wealth of resources. And on top of that wealth of resources, we have a tremendous amount of just brain power and expertise here, people who are very passionate about their communities and the various constituencies that they serve. And so we really want to empower and invest in that, because we shouldn't be waiting to the point of crisis to figure out what we want to do and how the city can respond. And the more we invest upstream and the more we train and build scale and build capacity upstream, the better off we are in terms of alleviating that pressure that I talked about at the point of crisis where we're requiring intervention. And so for the Office of Community Safety, it's really about how we weave together the resources that we have. There's a lot of intersectionality in the issues that we work on, gun violence, mental and emotional health, survivor services, domestic and gender-based violence, hate crimes prevention. There can be a lot of overlap between these issues. And so this is about how do we stand up a coordinated response where we can invest in those community level resources to really help our community and strengthen our communities.
And everybody's kind of on the same page.
That's
now,
right.
We talked quite a bit here about the Be Heard program. Talk to me a little about how, I'm assuming that's already in place. Is that something that's going to be integrated into what you are doing now?
Yeah, I think we consider Be Heard to be a really critical building block for the Office of Community Safety, especially around mental health response and coordination. Right now it's in a pilot stage.
Yeah.
It serves specific neighborhoods, and it's really about how do we send alternative types of responders like EMTs and social workers to support people who are in mental health crisis. And that will just really be a really good stepping stone for us as the city to sort of figure out what are the pieces in that program and what are the pieces of the initiative where we need to be unstuck, and we really need to lean into how we build and support our ability to scale that as an intervention. And then also once we have that in a place where it's working the way it's supposed to work, how do we build on top of that to get further and deeper into supporting our communities?
And you have funding in place to at least start some of this work?
Yes, we have funding in place. I think a lot of people don't realize that many of these offices exist already, and it's really about pulling them together for this coordinated response and scaling. For example, we may have Be Heard as our alternate response, but then we have all of these community level supportive services across the OCS ecosystem that may not necessarily be connected into how we support someone after that crisis moment, and how do we support someone before that crisis moment, perhaps to intervene before it gets to that point. The full strength of OCS and all the resources that are invested in the office can really help us with that coordination and think about how these pieces fit together. And then there will be more investment to come, of course.
Yep. Renita Francois, you will be coming back because I think this is an important step. In the city, folks have said they wanted this. New Yorkers have been begging for this. Thank you for sitting down with us today. And we're going to send you to nyc.gov to find out more information about what it is, the work you're trying to do, and to follow you as you get things ramped up. Thank you very much.
That. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Time and time again, I wonder why leave us?
Vocalist Samara Joy has hit nothing but high notes since the start of her career. She has taken the jazz world by storm, wowing audiences at the Apollo, Carnegie Hall, the Village Vanguard, Jazz at Lincoln Center, and beyond. It is our pleasure to welcome 6-time Grammy Award winner and Bronx native Samara Joy. I am thrilled beyond words to have you sitting in that chair.
Thank you so much. It's my honor.
And we are so proud of you. We love being able to say Bronx native.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. When did you realize, I know that you come from a musical family, right? Your grandparents, tell me a little bit about that. Your grandparents, your dad?
Yes, my grandparents had a choir in Philly called the Savettes of Philadelphia, Elder Goldwire and Ruth McClendon. And the choir is still active to this day, but you can hear recordings. I can hear recordings of them from the 60s and 70s, you know, singing gospel. They have many stories of traveling from church to church in Philly, spreading that, even on church corners, street corners, you know, ministering to people and having church. So it trickled down to my aunts and uncles and my dad, and the music continues.
Yeah, it trickled down to you. When did you realize that you don't just have a voice? Because I sang in church too. I didn't sing like you. When did you realize that you had this gift?
I think I realized it sometime in school. You know, I was a part of a lot of musical theater and a lot of school concerts, and even in church too. We would sing "Oh Happy Day" together with the children's choir. So I don't know, I always found myself imitating my family and wanting to do what they did and sing with such ease. And so throughout school and in the Bronx and at State School and Purchase, SUNY Purchase, that's kind of when I don't know, that's when I fostered it.
Yeah, well, you started really working on it,
Yeah.
and probably other people looked at you like, because you were still in college when you won, I think, the Sarah Vaughan
Competition.
competition.
Yeah, when I was a junior.
Mhm. Is that right out of Lincoln Center or?
That is at NJPAC.
NJPAC,
Yeah.
all right. And did you know then, well, I am going to be able to make a living doing this, or was it really about doing what you were passionate about?
Well, I won that and participated when I was a junior, and so my freshman year at SUNY Purchase was when I first sort of encountered and immersed myself in jazz.
Yeah.
So it really was a love kind of thing. You know, I wanted to know more about it. I was listening to Sarah Vaughan and Ella for the first time, and I wanted to do what they did and evoke the same kind of emotion that they were evoking in me. And I was encouraged to participate in the competition, but I didn't feel like I was ready because I was absorbing all of this information, but I wasn't sure if I was able to express it, you know, as authentically as they did. But participating in that competition and winning and, you know, being surrounded by the judges and by the partners at WBGO, the radio station, I realized not that I could make a career, but I just wanted to keep going, you know, and see where it might lead.
Now, your dad, and correct me if I'm wrong, he sang with Andre Crouch,
Yes,
right?
he did.
So anybody that knows gospel music knows that. Were you ever tempted to sing gospel? You see it as how it sounds like your family roots were kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
I love it to this day. I think that it, you know, participating in church as a worship leader when I was 16 years old, still in high school, definitely influenced my approach to music.
Yeah.
And wanting to wanting to not bring attention to myself, but bring attention to something higher and sort of commune and bring people together. I love that, and I still think of it to this day. Like, I don't want to bring people to shows to just show off what I can do, but I want to spread a deeper message, you know, and I'm continually influenced by gospel music. And so, I don't know, I think it's still a part of me, and I think jazz is just another layer that I sort of added as a way for me to just express myself even more authentically.
And was your family surprised by the choice, or did they want you to do what makes you happy?
Always, you know, I was Willy Wonka when I was in 6th grade, and I was doing a chorus line when I was in high school. Like, any school concert, anything that I was doing, they were always fully supportive of. And so my dad always says, like, yeah, well, you were a freshman in college, and, you know, you were transcribing Ella, How High the Moon, and you were, you know, because I had no idea who Charlie Parker was, Dizzy Gillespie, Duke Ellington. I was just getting into that world. And so when I, you know, realized that I loved it, I wanted to learn as much about it as possible, and thankfully Purchase was the right place to do that, and I loved it.
And it obviously loves you. I mean, I think maybe one of the most important things about your being so successful and so young and so respectful of jazz as an art form is that perhaps other young people will latch on to you and jazz. Because I think, you know, that's a conversation we've been having for years. This is a truly American art form, and the thing is to get more young people to listen.
Exactly, and it's crazy when I hear people say that the genre is past and gone, or it's, you know, because there's so many, not only me, but other vocalists, other instrumentalists who are who are pouring into it, other people from previous generations who are now teaching at universities and who are sort of passing on that love and passion for the music and for learning about it. And you think about it, people like Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn and Charles Mingus, they're like Max Roach, Abbey Lincoln, they're like African-American geniuses. They're greats. They're like some of the Charlie Parker, like the deepest thinkers, you know, to be able to make music and not only make music, but create something new for generations that we're still learning from. Like, we're still thinking of their music as modern. Thelonious Monk, we're still looking to them for how they were able to take the resources that they had at the time. We have the benefit of looking at music from so many different angles and so much information, but taking what they had, whether it's the blues, whether it's the swing era, and being able to create something incredibly new, it's just, we should be honoring them as well as honoring ourselves by, you know, seeking what they sought in order to reach our own creative arrivals.
You name dropper, you.
No.
So talk to me a little bit about Portrait.
Portrait was my way of doing just that, honestly. Was my way of sort of seeking out the sound that I was hearing musically and wanting to be able to express it through the context of a septet and through the context of having arrangers within a band who are writing not only for voice or for alto saxophone or tenor saxophone, but writing for the specific person in the group. Similar to somebody like Duke Ellington, who, you know, is known for writing parts for Paul Gonsalves as opposed to just writing parts for tenor saxophone, you know, writing for the specific person. Or Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. Like, Art Blakey allowed the horn players in his band to write for the band and in a way to progress the sound of the music through their compositions. And so that's what I wanted to do with Portrait. I wanted to give the reins completely to the musicians and allow them to create the sound. And we've been growing with it and revising and working together and building a chemistry that you can't build from just working with somebody once or twice. It takes years, so we've invested that time.
Did you get what you were hoping?
Yes, absolutely. To the point where now that we've recorded the album, we recorded the album in March of 2024, and now in April of 2026, we're a completely different band, we sound like. You know, like we just played a club in Los Angeles, Blue Note Los Angeles, and it sounds completely different from what we recorded, but that's the point, you know, is to document where we are, but never stay there.
Not be static.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sound like you're 26. Yeah. You sound like a jazz historian. No. Seriously. No, but it's really interesting, your process, that you really want to know what these jazz masters were doing and how it can influence what you're going to do in the future.
Absolutely.
So the big question now is, I think, when can we see you locally and how soon?
Well, the soonest would be May 16th at the David Geffen Hall with the New York Philharmonic and my septet. That's another layer that we've been adding with Portrait, is writing for orchestra. And so my band is going to debut their writings and their orchestrations for the New York Philharmonic.
And tell me what it means to you to perform in your hometown, Miss Bronx native.
Well, I credit New York and my family with giving me this love of music in the first place and inspiring me. And so the fact that I can come to New York and play in clubs like the Vanguard, like you said, or play Town Hall or Carnegie Hall, and now David Geffen Hall, I'm thankful to be growing with each new year, and I'm glad that there are people, my hometown, there are people at home who can help me navigate that journey and continue to show up for me and support me. And so I want to aim, hopefully, to give back as much love as I received.
Yeah, well, you do. Your voice is incredible. I love, you just have this sort, for me, and I don't know what I'm talking about really, but this vocal dexterity that I just find really incredible. And it's such a pleasure to be able to talk with you. SamaraJoy.com is the website, so you can find out where you're going to be performing. And there's a pretty full schedule over the summer, so if you don't get to hear it in New York, there are other places they'll be able to hear you. Yeah. And your social media at Samara Joy. May 16th, Lincoln Center in the David Geffen Hall. All right? So nice to see you again, and you can come back anytime. Seriously, you just call and go, I want to talk today. And we will put the light on you and put a mic on you.
A little girl talk, a little tea, you know.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. from being a sidewalk musician to a viral sensation with 3 million followers to selling out concert venues with his signature mix of smooth jazz and R&B. In celebration of Jazz Appreciation Month, it is our pleasure to welcome saxophonist extraordinaire Chris Mitchell.
You have to introduce me for all my concerts moving forward. Like, that was amazing.
Hey, you're a Texan, so I got a soft spot in my heart for fellow Texans.
Yeah,
It's
of
so
course.
nice to meet
It's
you.
a pleasure to meet you as well. Thanks for having me.
You have been playing the sax since you were 12, is that
Since I was
right?
12.
What is it about that instrument that captured your attention?
You know, honestly, it's hard to answer that question because I started on drums first. My family are musicians, all of them. And I was playing baritone and tuba in the band in 6th grade. And then I was walking by the practice room and I heard a guy that was playing his instrument. I go in there, I was like, hey man, what instrument is that? And he's like, it's called a tenor saxophone.
Oh.
And I was like, can you get girls with that? And he's like, yeah.
So that's been your raison d'etre your whole life, to get girls.
You know, there was this girl in class that played clarinet, and I was like playing tuba, so that was not gonna get her. Yeah, so it was like this little skinny kid playing this tuba, that was not gonna get her. So I started playing saxophone, and then I realized, I said, you know what, I could probably get someone else to play this instrument. But no, I started playing, and because I come from a musical family, it was just a thing that's always been a part of me, to be a part of that musicianship that, you know, my siblings shared, and then my parents shared, and cousins shared, and so, yeah.
So I'm laughing at you because you could be one of my cousins.
Possibly.
So saxophone, what, did you play in church too? Because I know that you
Yeah,
were.
my dad was a pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that explains
Yeah.
a lot.
PK over here. Yeah, I'm a PK.
So I know, look, unlike a lot of previous generations who didn't have access to social media, that has kind of played a role in getting your music out there, right?
It has. And it's funny you say that because when I first started in music, it was in 2011. I just graduated from college. And yeah, I had been playing in middle school, high school, and college. But like to really get into professionally was right after the recession. When I graduated, couldn't find a job for 2 years. So I started playing, you know, like you said, from the sidewalk. And I had Facebook, but didn't really use it. And the way I got my music out was collecting people's information and just sending them the music I recorded it, and hopefully that they'll go and download it.
And they responded, did they not?
And they responded, yeah. And they responded. And then later on in the years, you know, here we are today.
Yeah. Did it surprise you? I mean, how did you feel, especially since you'd had such a hard time finding work, as all of a sudden, somebody loves me?
Yeah, because I always thought when people would, you know, tip, that's people hard-earned money, you know, and they must really believe in you to give something in your tip jar. So, you know, I would play out there 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, and I was not going home until I reached, you know, a couple of bucks and being able to fund my next venture, which would be I can go over here and play in this town center. And I leave from Sugar Land Town Center and go to Memorial, and you know, it was confusing at first because I didn't really understand like the music business, or I didn't understand business in general, but I knew how to count. So so I was like, this is how much I need to earn. I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet, but I was always aligned with people that could, you know, walk me through every step I needed to get to where I am now.
And that is, I think that it's fantastic the way you were able to turn money you collected, internet, you know, views on the internet into this successful career. And how long did that take?
So when I started using social media, like seriously, was in 2021 actually. I had collected so many people's information on the sidewalk, thanks to a guy named Harry Seisha, who was a waiter there. That when I was playing, he came outside one day and was like, "Hey, it's gonna be busy today. Cadillac is having this festival, and so many people are gonna be around. You gotta collect people's information and let them know that you're gonna be performing here again." I said, you know what, you're right. So I go in the office, the manager's office, and I print out name, email, and phone number. And I get a table, and I go back outside, put a pen next to it, and put my tip jar there, and I started collecting everyone's information. I was collecting over 400 emails and phone numbers a day. I did this for 9.5 months, and at the end, I collected right about over 500,000 people's information. So that's how I was getting my music out there. So
and getting a few coins on the side.
And getting a few coins on the side, you know. And as time was going on, speeded up to social media, was 2021. I had already been touring by then. I had already been touring 7 years by then. 2020 came, I took some time off, and I was just chilling, you know what I mean? In respect to everyone that had a hard 2020. And then 2021 was kind of still feeling the effects of the previous year. My friends are all on TikTok, and they were just scrolling. They were like, you gotta join. And I was like, you know what, all right, cool. I get online, and I started live streaming, and then so many people started flooding into the live stream.
Yeah, they were looking for they were looking for great performances too.
They were, and I had so many people just tuned in, and my social media following just started just going, and then it started to flood into Instagram and YouTube and other social media outlets. So yeah.
So you're essentially an independent artist.
Yeah.
How difficult or easy has that been navigating the music industry, which is notoriously difficult?
Yeah. Because I've always rented my venues when I perform. I've never been hired to do a concert.
Okay.
So when I was playing on the sidewalk, I saved up $800 to rent a jazz club. And the owner, Sam Pink, he said, how are you going to Red Cat Jazz Cafe? The owner, Sam Pink, said, how are you going to sell tickets? And I said, well, I'm just going to send out some emails and hopefully some people will show up. So I did that, and we sold out within 20 minutes. Yeah. It was only about 140 seats, but I had over 500,000 people's information. So we ended up adding a second show. And then one day I was sitting in the restaurant, and they were watching Turkey, they were watching soccer, but they were watching Turkey play some other team. And then on commercial, they were showing that at the time, America was one of the most diverse countries in the world. And then Houston was the #1 multicultural city in the nation, which I thought, well, I guess that means the world. So I go back to my email list, started asking everybody, where you from? And they're like, oh, I'm from Istanbul, or I'm from Casablanca, Morocco, I'm from Lisbon, Portugal, I'm from New York City, I'm from Los Angeles, I'm from here, I'm from there. So I started telling them, like, hey, if I can put together a tour, would you be able to come out? And they were like, yeah, just let us know when the tickets are going on sale. And so I started renting meeting spaces at hotels around America. I couldn't afford those meeting spaces, but I started renting meeting spaces that had about 50 people in there, and I would put my tickets out and say, hey, come over and support me. I would land in the city, and I would go to Guitar Center, get some equipment, take it over there myself, set it up, go to a table that I set outside the meeting space, sell my own tickets, and then tuck my tickets in a box and put them under the table, go back into the room, do a one-man show on my little iPad, and then go back out and sell my CDs. It's a lot.
It's a lot, but you've been successful at it.
Yeah.
That is which is just remarkable, which is proof positive. Hard work and talent will eventually pay off. Now, talk to me about this Begging for Sax tour.
Yeah, it happened when I was posting videos, and I saw this one guy playing guitar. He called it Begging for Guitar, and I was like, always looking for like play on words, because sometimes I would say sax sells or sax in the city, and I was like, and I saw that, I was like, begging for sax sounds like a thing, and then people in my chat was like, you should go with that. And this was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and then when I decided to finally go on tour again, I was like, well, we got to name it that. So
I think it's a perfect name.
And then it just started blowing up.
And I know that some of your covers have really taken off.
Yeah, a lot of them have taken off.
Yeah, you got to feel good about that reaction.
I do. And then it's always nice to hear from the artists themselves that written the covers or sang the covers, their song.
Who are some of those names that have said, hey, come on, you can drop a couple?
Yeah, I mean, I've had Usher comment. I said Chris Brown liked it. I've had K. Michelle. I've had a lot of different people that have, and even DM'd me that wanted to work together. You remember Dina Howard?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
I'll be seeing her next month. I'm flying out to perform with her.
Oh, terrific.
Next month. I just performed with Leela James. And then some of them are coming to my shows and enjoying themselves as well. So I have original music, but it was a thing about performing the covers because it was giving a different perspective to the song that's already popularized and that people are already singing. So it was just like, if you know the words, you know, if I can play it just as close to the imitation of a voice, you can hum it, you can sing the melody, and it feels good too.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing, and they really just started just blowing up.
So what would you like? Where would you like to see your career go next? You're in the middle of this tour. What would you like? And you've kind of made all of this happen.
You know, honestly, I don't even have an answer for that because God has been ordering my steps everywhere I've gone. So, you know, even though I have this plan to continue doing what I do, I always felt like if I just stayed doing what I love doing, everything else would work itself out. It was like that on the sidewalk, and even to this day. When on the sidewalk, there was rainy days, right? And you never know, like, how much you're gonna make that day and like that. And sometimes when the restaurant was doing slow, or the town center is doing slow, a lot of people are not walking through the town center, so I'm not gonna earn as much. But, you know, I never went hungry. I was always having my rent paid somehow. And even during that time when I was on the sidewalk, my car was stolen with all my instruments. So I had to borrow $140 from the pastor. And I went to a pawn shop, I bought an instrument. It was always a way out of no way, right? And yeah, and it's been like that even today. Even today, when I rent a venue and we'll sell my own tickets, I don't know how many tickets are gonna sell, right? But I always figured if I continue using my gift, it's all gonna work out. That's the promise to me. So that's what I kept doing, and that's what I'm gonna keep doing.
What'd you say earlier, PK?
Yeah,
Preacher's
PK.
kid?
Yeah.
So you were listening.
Yeah, I was listening.
You were listening.
Yeah, Proverbs 18:13, Habakkuk 2:2.
Oh, he's got to be proud of you.
Yeah.
They've got to be proud of
Yeah.
you. ChrisMitchellJazz.com.
That's it.
And we can find out where you're going to be performing. And obviously your social media tagged at Chris Mitchell Jazz.
That's me.
Your story is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see what you do next, because something next is coming.
Something next is coming.
It's coming.
Just did New Brunswick, and that was sold out, and we got some more cities ahead. Dallas, Houston, Austin, Chicago, D.C.
And you got to come back to New York.
And I got to come back to New York.
Okay. All right. Chris Mitchell, I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I
you
think
so
we
much.
probably are cousins. We'll be right back. Our next guest is on a mission to help young women from underserved communities discover what she calls their princess within. Her nonprofit, Princess Chambers, Inc., is not only helping families ease their financial burdens with free prom dresses and scholarships, it is providing these young women with so much more. With us today is the founder of Princess Chambers, Jennifer Daniel. So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you also.
2009, what made you think, you know what, there is a need for this?
You know, it's so funny. That feels so long ago.
It was.
It was. At the time, I was working in the insurance industry, and I was also doing a lot of community service. And so I actually went to a high school that was really big on community development, and I felt like something was missing in my life at that time. And so I was volunteering with young women, and it's so funny because the idea came the year before, and I didn't do anything about it. And I have this theory that if something stays with you, that means you have to do something about it. Yeah. So in 2009, same situation, was meeting young women that was saying, oh, I can't afford a dress. And if we think about that time, there was a financial crisis. And so decided to do something about it. In 2 weeks, was able to do 250 dresses and organize an event that served over 200 students. And then I thought it was gonna be one and done, and here we are. 2026, still doing it.
But you said it stuck with you, so you felt like you were doing the right thing. And I know that you guys just wrapped up this year's prom event. How did it go?
There's no words. I took a pause because of the nature of 2020. We brought our event back last year. And so our goal is really to curate an experience for 100 young women. So we usually maximize the max number, but this year we actually had a waiting list. And so instead of 100 girls, we actually ended up serving 179 girls.
Perfect.
And so they got a chance to have the boutique experience. We want to make sure they come in feeling transformed. And so what was beautiful is that there were some girls who weren't sure if they wanted to take a photo, but then once they were done with the whole glam, they were like, I need to be on the pink carpet and step and repeat. And so we tried to make sure that we're thinking about all of the details. And so even though it's not that prom day, we want them to get a kind of a preview of what they can look like. So we have hairstylists, we have a hair salon, Off the Hook Salon by Shawnice, that for the last 10 years, she has been closing her salon on a Saturday and bringing her team so that they can get to see what they'll look like. We have former Miss New York USA crowning the girls on the pink carpet. And one of the best parts for this year for me was that there was a woman who came with her little sister, and turns out she got her dress 10 years before.
Okay.
And she was able to share about how she was in a shelter at the time, and then she's now a teacher, saw the flyer and said her little sister had to come. And so just those stories that come out of the experience is just really beautiful.
And you give out scholarships too. Yeah.
Yes. And so I feel like we mastered the world of prom, but thinking about that, even though it's a momentous occasion, the rites of passage, if you will, academic empowerment is also a need. And so thinking about being able to support, how can we support young women financially as they go into that next journey? And so in 2015, we launched the Crown Princess Scholarship. And it's so amazing to think that since then we've served 32 young women. And we even have memorial scholarships underneath. So one of our board members, Craig Holliday, his mom passed away, and he now continues her legacy through giving scholarship, as well as we also, one of our school partners, her husband passed away during COVID. She wanted to now continue his legacy through the scholarship. And so we're preparing for our garden party. That is how we celebrate our young women.
Yeah. And the garden party, tell me about that. That's coming up. Is it June?
It is in June. And so everything is all about an elevated experience. So we have a garden party to celebrate our girls. Our volunteers come, community members. Bloom Again Brooklyn is also a floral partner. They donate flowers. Our attendees can make a floral arrangement, but we also crown the girls with with the floral crown to really commemorate their achievement. And we also provide them with bundles, like a college bundle with like dorm essentials, so that they can be prepared as they go into this next chapter.
So, somebody listening to this interview, they go, what's the big deal with prom dresses? I don't get it. And even the scholarships, you touched on it a little bit. There are things that can happen in someone's life that can change the way they see themselves in their life. And that's essentially, to me, what you guys are doing. So it's much deeper than a dress.
100%. I feel like the dress is just a mechanism to build confidence. When I think about my second year doing Princess Chambers, the prom giveaway, and even that, we call it the prom boutique because giveaways should never feel like a giveaway. And we had a young woman who came, and she didn't think she was going to find anything. And then she found a dress, and then one of the volunteers, Celine, I'll always remember this moment, said to her that she looked beautiful, and she just was in tears. It was the first time she ever heard that she was beautiful. So for us, it's about building that confidence, empowering, but also even in the name, Princess Chambers, it's not about the princess alone. It's about curating a space where they can be empowered, they can be confident, they can feel beautiful, they can be celebrated. And so for us, it is definitely bigger than the dress. It's building dignity in a way that maybe they haven't experienced.
Yeah, it is wonderful is what it is. And I know you've got a fundraiser coming up in September, but my producer's going to kill me because we're running out of time. So I want to send folks to princesschambersinc.org. They can find out about everything that you guys do. If you want to donate something, if you want to volunteer, please go on the website. And there'll also be information about that fundraiser, which is not until September.
Correct.
Right? Correct.
Right. Yes.
Jen Daniel, you are fantastic, and I'm glad you followed your passion because I think you are changing so many young women's lives in an important way. Thank you for sitting down with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back. She is a nationally recognized legal expert and an Emmy-nominated television personality who's also a longtime youth advocate. Her new book, Goal Girls, is aimed at empowering and inspiring children from all backgrounds. She's also celebrating 25 years on TV, including her current courtroom show, The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. It's our pleasure to welcome Judge Glenda A. Hatchett. I want to get up and give you a big hug. It's so nice to see you again.
I am so happy to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
And full disclosure to the viewers, I have known this woman for years. I was a young reporter in Atlanta, didn't know what I was doing. But I sat in your courtroom and was always so impressed with how you laid down the law, but at the same time, you were so concerned about what happened with all the young people that were coming through your courtroom. You were head of juvenile court.
Chief Judge of Juvenile Court, one of the largest in the nation.
And then you walked away from all that and jumped into this crazy business.
Yes.
25 years you've been doing it. Yes. Have you enjoyed it? And how do you feel that you have been able to, I guess, take that legal education and do something else with it?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. If you told me I would be doing this, I would say, oh, no, wait a minute, you're crazy. I'm not doing this. But actually, it has been taking what I have done and loved doing in my own courtroom to a national, actually international stage. But it's the same thing I've always done. The difference is that I'm touching people I don't know that I'm touching. And so I can be walking down the streets in New York City, I can be in a small town in Mississippi, and it's still the same. People come up to me and say, I watched that show, I changed my life, I made a difference, I went back to school. I mean, the stories that have happened over these years. And so I'm grateful to have had this platform for 25 years and grateful that people have been able to take some life lessons and change their life. One quick story, really quick. I was doing a book signing years ago in Detroit, and I looked up in the line, and there was an elderly woman. And I said, oh my goodness, I would not have had you stand in line. We could have had you come up. She said, Judge, I would have stood in line all night if I had to, because I have something to tell you. I'm in law school.
Really?
And I kind of looked at her like almost in disbelief. And her daughter said, yes, Judge, we're both in law school. And she said, you inspired me. You said, what is your dream for your life? To so many people as I watched you on television, and that was my dream. And so I went back. She was 83 years old and was in law school.
And I remember hearing you ask that question of young people in your court. I was so impressed with you at the time, the amount of patience and caring that you showed. Because I think that's what, being a judge should be about. I know it's crime and punishment a lot of times, but especially in a juvenile court, there's so much more.
And it's supposed to be rehabilitation. And I mean, you have been in my courtroom, so you know that that's how I did it. And I mean, I was really tough when I had to be tough.
Oh, you didn't play.
I had to be. But there were times when I would come down off the bench, like people would see me on television. That's what I did before, come down, hug you. But what I did and what I tried to do is keep them from being there in the first place. So a lot of community-based things that in Atlanta, I partner with different programs to keep kids from coming to there. But when they came there, I was trying to keep them
coming
from
back.
And that we didn't want to see them at 15 and then 25, 35, 45 in the adult system. And that's what I think it's called. But I will tell you that I'm very proud of the work we did because got the recidivism rate down to single digit. 9%,
which is an accomplishment.
Which is unheard of in any major city anywhere in the country. But that was intentional.
Yeah.
I wanted these kids to go on and have a different kind of life.
Yeah. And what I love about the fact is that now you're a big TV star and you are still doing what you can to make a change in people's lives. Now, this is your third book.
Yes.
It's called Goal Girls.
Yes.
So talk to me about that title.
Goal Girls really is because of my dad and my very, very close relationship. I'm a daddy's girl. And I grew up at a time when people didn't expect very much from little colored girls in the Deep South, if they expected anything. But my daddy told me that I could be anything in the world, and I believed him. And so that's the concept, Goal Girls. So it's dedicated to him, to my dad. But it starts off by simply saying, so the next time someone tells you can't because you're a girl, you tell them you can. And it ends by saying that you can be anything that you dream. And that's what we want to do. We want to plant these seeds in children young, so that they can see and imagine themselves in places like this. So I believe my dad then, and I still believe him.
Well, and you're the proof of that.
And I tried to do that.
So you chose an alphabet format. I know you're focused on girls in this book, 3 to 8.
3 to 8.
Okay. And so why was that format good, do you think?
So the format, I thought, for younger kids that can learn the ABCs, but for the older children in that range, there are actually rhymes on each page, so they can actually read. And then someone gave me the idea just the other night that, why not have high school kids partner with elementary school kids and actually do these readings? But it is designed for younger children who then can go on to read.
And you have a section in the book, the dream section.
My favorite part, So at the very end of the book has little things like little scissors where you can cut out the last page. And the idea, honestly, is that we want parents, godparents, uncles, whoever has these touch points with children, we want to encourage the children to write their dreams or to draw their dreams, paint their dreams. I don't care, whatever you want to do. But the idea is to post it on the ceiling above their bed. So it's the first thing they see every morning when they wake up, and the very last thing they see at night. So I used to do parenting conferences years ago, and I had this concept of posting the dreams. And one parent came back later and said, my kids did it in glow-in-the-dark ink.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So they could see it even at night. But that's what we want to do. We want to have our children dream big, bold dreams, and we want them to start early with that.
You said you're doing this work, you're doing all this because your dad told you that you could do and be anything you wanted to be. Do you feel like you've been so successful?
Thank you.
You've changed lives. That's important to you in terms of feeling like you've actually done the things that you were meant to do, you were put on the earth to do, because you could just lay back, rest on your laurels, as they say.
You know what? I was taught that my blessings were to come through me to bless the world, not for me to keep. And I've always said I didn't come from a family with money, but I came from a wealthy family. Wealthy in ways that you can't measure and that have really shaped who I am. And so it is not who I am to just sit and be comfortable. I have learned, watching examples, that it is important to do what you can where you can, as often as you can. And that's what I want to do. So I come from a generation where it was hard to break these ceilings, right? That as you know, I was the first this, I was the first that. When I was at Delta as an attorney, I was the highest ranking woman of any color, not just the black woman. I mean, Hispanic, Native American, whatever. I was the highest worldwide. And when I would go into court to represent this major airline, people would look at me. And, and so I have been in situations like that really all my life. But it was important for me to do it at a level of excellence, because there were others who had to come behind me.
And you're still trying to do that and get people, get young girls especially, on that path to excellence. So I have to ask you, is this just a book or is this a movement?
This is a movement. This is absolutely more than this book, and for free, literally for free, people can go to shopgoldgirls.com, print out that last page of the book, and post your child's dreams. You don't have to. You can get that for free. And then there's a thing that they can then develop their dreams and print out a badge that prints out their dreams. Because I do want this to be more than a book. This is so much bigger than a book. It's about conversations. We're developing curriculum for school systems to use throughout the country to have these conversations. And this is my way of hopefully giving back and making a difference. All the pre-sales originally on this book benefited the Boys and Girls Clubs. And that's what I'm called to do, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I knew I loved you the first time I walked into your courtroom, even though I was a little scared of you. I'm so proud of you and everything you've accomplished.
That
We're going to
means so
send
much to
folks
me.
to judgehatchett.com.
Right.
Everything Judge Hatchett is
Everything.
there.
The shop Go Girls down there, you can do everything about Judge Hatchett. People forget that I practice law. I practice law all over the country. Anything you want to know about me is going to be on judgehatchett.com.
Okay, including how to get to Gold Girls.
That's exactly right.
And you can buy the book wherever books are sold.
Wherever books are sold, you can buy them.
Judge Glenda Hatchett. Oh, and we got to mention the show now because you're in it's The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
Yes, The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is on and still doing it.
And you
25
still love it.
years later and loving it.
Perfect.
Loving it.
So nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
I suspect it won't be the last time I see you sitting here. So and that's an invitation to come back.
And I accept that. And I accept, and it's so great to see you. I teased people in the studio. I said, we loaned her from Atlanta, and you all didn't send her back, but I am just so proud of you and the things that you've been able to do. This is where you should be.
I'm a New Yorker now.
Yes, you are, and I am thrilled for you and so very proud of you. I really am.
Thank you so much. Love you, love you, love you. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/here and now or listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.